Hey everybody, welcome back to the Lockdown with Sean and Cam. Last episode, we finished up our NFL schedules and team breakdown. And these next few episodes, we're going to go over the NBA bubble that's going on in Orlando right now, which is basically the resuming of the 2019-2020 NBA season.
Yeah, it's been an exciting start to the restart of the season. And I got a glimpse of a couple of the scrimmage games the past couple days. And the NBA has taken extreme and the necessary precautions to make sure that their players are safe and that they're still competing for a championship the right way and finishing out the season properly. Compliments to commissioners and the basketball administration for putting this together and making sure that they're valuing the players' health and their safety before anything else.
Yeah, and they are super strict before you can play. I think you have to quarantine for like 7 days and then get tested, and there's just tons of testing. I know some players that ended up with COVID, they couldn't go to Orlando until they were cleared of it. So it's good to see how serious that they're taking this, and hopefully maybe the NFL looks at them and they even look at UFC and see how they do it. So that way we actually have an NFL season.
Yeah, it was interesting to see their version of replacing the fans in the stands. They
Yeah,
had, I think,
I saw that.
electronic panels with fans reacting, and they had like stereo systems playing fan reactions based on the gameplay. So
Yeah,
it sounds a little tacky, but it's a good initiative to
right.
get that game time atmosphere for the players, because I know for sure that even though it may be an advantage for some players to not have any crowd distractions, for others it just juices them up and gets them riled for the games.
Right. If you're the home team, then it's good for you because if you look, it's all if you're the home team, that's what the fans are when they pop up. I didn't
Yeah,
see it like I saw the Kings play the Heat, I think it was yesterday or the day before, and you look and it just has Heat fans
yeah.
watching. It's like, well, I guess when the Kings play, they'll have Kings fans instead when they're
What
the home
I'm what
team.
I'm trying to
But
figure out is, are those real Heats fans who like were invited to record their reaction, or if they were like paid actors who just put on jerseys.
right.
So, but it's a fun atmosphere.
Yeah, so this episode, we're actually going to break down the teams that got to go to Orlando from the west side of the conference. So for the first team, we're going to get into the number one seed, the Los Angeles Lakers. Oh, goodness. I don't like
LeBron
talking
land.
about that. Right. Um, Coached by Frank Vogel, or I guess you could say LeBron James, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah,
So they have arguably the greatest of all time when it comes to basketball in LeBron James.
debatable.
It is debatable, but we can both agree that in our lifetime we haven't seen anything like what LeBron's done, right? Because we didn't get to see Jordan play in real time.
Yeah, you're right on that. We
So
got a good we got a good piece of history with the Last Dance documentary, which was
right, right,
fantastic.
right. So they have LeBron James, and then Anthony Davis, LeBron's Robin to his Batman. What probably top a lot of people say top five player in the NBA. So
Yeah, yeah. I don't see why. Like, I don't think he's proven enough by himself, but he does have the skill set to be a top 10 player.
right, and then they have Dwight Howard, you know, rebounding machine. It seems like he's really reinvented himself with the Lakers the second time around.
Yeah,
And then they have Avery Bradley, but he chose to opt out of the rest of the season. So they went and they signed. Who would have known? I guess everybody knew it was going to happen, but really, should they have done this? J.R. Smith,
Yeah.
Mr. Hennessy himself, due to Rondo being injured, and they also signed Dion Waiters,
That's a
knockdown
good
three-point shooter. So
tough player.
yeah, and they also still have Kuzma, great, probably what, sixth man? Because I don't think he starts.
Yeah, he comes off the bench, but he does produce, even though that's not what he initially was picked up for. He should have been a good, uh, not a centerpiece, but a good second, third franchise kind
Right.
of player for the team. So, but taking back seat to LeBron and Anthony Davis, that's fine too.
Yeah. And they still have what everybody proclaims to be the GOAT, Alex Caruso.
Bald man Carruthers, man, he is just he 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 got hops.
Yeah, he yams on people. But if you look at their schedule, they have the Clippers, the Raptors, the Jazz, the Thunder, the Rockets, the Pacers, the Nuggets, and the Kings. So due to them being the number one seed and having LeBron, a healthy LeBron, and it seems like this team was really meshing before, the season came to a halt. I could see them winning maybe 6 out of the 8, maybe 7 out of the 8.
Yeah, but I think the true factor lies within the minutes that LeBron and Anthony play in each game because they already know that they're going to be a top seed. So, like with a lot of high seeded teams who already know that they're going to go far in the playoffs, how long or how much load do they want to give to their star players during the games that really don't mean as much as say for someone like Sacramento or Phoenix or trying to fight for that last playoff spot.
Right, that's actually a really good point. So, I guess we'll see how it plays out. It's possible that, LeBron and Anthony Davis might want to play, because they've been sitting for so long, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, rust can really show on players who have been sitting out for a few months. So, based on the scrimmage games, LeBron and Anthony look just fine, like they just never missed a beat. But you never know. So second seed is the rivals cross town, the battle for the heart of LA, the Clippers, led by the great defensive man himself. Boardman gets paid, Kawhi Leonard. Um, Such high expectations for this team coming into the season. And they have a pretty loaded roster so far. But their injury reports show a lot of damage. So Zubac at the center position, he has an undisclosed reason for not being with the team. Lou Williams, personal reasons, I think COVID.
I think one of his family members might have got
Oh,
it, but I know he's not
no,
in
no,
it
no,
right
no.
now.
Yeah, Pat Beverly, personal reasons, he's not going to be joining the team.
He's not going to be it. Wow. So they don't have
Yeah.
Patrick Beverly, Montrezl Harrell, and now Lou Williams. That's tough. It's a good thing that they're already a high seed.
Yeah, so at the moment right now they have Reggie Jackson, Marcus Morris, Joakim Noah, Patrick Patterson, and Kawhi Leonard, and did I mention Paul George?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, so with that squad, it should be pretty doable. And with their schedule, um, they're set to face the Lakers first, then the Pelicans, Phoenix, Dallas, Portland, Brooklyn, Denver, and Oklahoma City. So I think they realize what position they're in right now, that they can't take their foot off the gas. And I think they're going to try to really compete for that top seed in the West. Um, so I can predict that they can go 5 to 6 wins. Again, depending on what the coach wants to do with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. Do you sit them and bench them for a good portion of games that don't matter, or
Right.
do you let them, use these 8 games to retune and refine themselves so they can prepare for the playoffs? So another strong threat to the Lakers and LeBron, um, but it's look like with Lou Williams, Pat Beverly, and Montrezl Harrell, like you said, out of the lineup, it's going to be a struggle for them. But I think Kawhi and Paul George are up for the challenge.
Right. And they have Doc Rivers, great
Yeah,
coach, so they should be good there for sure. But when I think about trying to make a deep playoff run with just Kawhi and Paul George, I'm sure they could do it, but it's going to be a lot more difficult because the depth is gone.
yeah.
Montrezl Harrell and Lou Williams, sixth man of the year for like what past 2 years, and then Montrez, maybe the seventh man. They put up numbers and they gave other teams who played them fits. And I think with them gone, it's gonna be it might actually have them take a bit of a step back in terms of defensively and offensively because
Mm.
Montrezl Harrell was a very good defender and Lou Williams, as you know, is a walking bucket. So we'll see what happens. They also have Marcus Morris, Markeith
Yeah.
Morris's brother. So that's going to be fun when they play against each other on the first game in the schedule. But yeah, I mean, I can see them sitting Kawhi and Paul George for a few games. But honestly, if they do that, I don't think that they're going to win the games that they sit because they don't have Lou Williams, Montrez, and even Patrick Beverly. You said isn't going to be there.
Yeah.
So they take a huge hit defensively. Huge. Who's going to guard, LeBron? Who's going to guard Devin Booker? Patrick Beverly would guard the other team's best player and basically lock them down. So it's going to be interesting to see how things
I
play
wouldn't
out.
I wouldn't say locked down. Like Kawhi Leonard, he locks down. Patrick Beverly, he's like that fly that just you need to slap away, but you just miss. It just pesters you. But he does
Right.
his role very well, and he takes pride in his work. So yeah, so they're missing key components to what could have been a great championship roster.
Right. Right. So we'll see if they can make a deep playoff run. But
Yep.
now we have the third seed in the West, the Denver Nuggets, coached
Yeah.
by, as Kings fans know him well, Mike Malone. Oh, geez.
Shouldn't have. We'll never let him go.
Right. Never. But we'll see what happens now. But they got Nikola Jokic, the Joker.
Joker.
He lost some weight. Looks good. Probably one of the best, if not the best, passing centers in the league right now. Jamal Murray, great point guard, even though you and I, for some reason, do not like him. I just don't
He
like him at
he's
all. He's just
very
cocky, arrogant.
cocky. Very cocky.
Still have Miles Plumlee coming off the bench, underrated power forward center. Really cleans up on the boards and gets a lot of putbacks. The rookie who didn't play last season, Michael Porter Jr. He
Yeah.
should be fully healthy now, ready to go. Still have Will Barton. Literally can knock down a three at any time.
Great deep threat.
I think Gary Harris, super quick off the ball, knocks down a three, can get to the rim with ease, and then you have Bol. Seems to be the breakout player on the Nuggets right now after that scrimmage performance of what do you have? Like 14 points, 6 blocks, and
I don't think
10
he's
rebounds.
the true new big man on campus. I think that's safe for another tall European cat in Dallas that we'll get to
Ah,
soon.
right. And they still have Paul Millsap, veteran, so they have that veteran leadership as they really always had. So their schedule is going to be they're going to play the Heat, the Thunder, the Spurs, the Blazers, the Jazz, the Lakers, the Clippers, and the Raptors. So they're playing some pretty good teams. It seems the only teams that will probably be easy for them would be probably the Spurs and honestly probably the Clippers with their situation right now. Other than that, I don't see any, gimme games for them.
Yeah, I see Denver as a very strong team, well coached. Again, Mike Malone. Um, they just never in the past couple years seem to have really put themselves in a level on their own, despite getting very high seats in their own conference. Um, their schedule, it looks doable, and I don't know. I don't think Mike Malone's going to do a lot of load management, if at all. So I could see them winning 6 to 7 of their games, um, maybe close ones for a couple of them. But I see Nikola Jokic and the rest of his team supporting cast. I feel like they play very well in unison, and just their chemistry over the past couple of years have developed and grown. So hopefully we can see that on display, even though despite the recent hiatus because of COVID. But I see a lot of positive things from that team. Um, so bringing to the next seeded team, we have the Utah Jazz. Very underrated team. You just never know, what you get with them. And they have a pretty sneaky good squad, led by Donovan Mitchell and Defensive Player of the Year, um, Rudy Gobert.
Rudy Gobert, the one who ruined it for everybody. Freaking Rudy Gobert. You
He
had
had
you had to joke that you had COVID, and then you lick your hand, you touch the microphones. Now everybody loses. Good job, Rudy. You know what? This guy should be disqualified from the bubble. He should be banned from Orlando.
maybe. um, Looking at the roster, I see a weakness, but I think it's just because of, for me, I just don't recognize a lot of these names, like Justin Wright Foreman, Nigel Williams Goat or Gauss. I think he's from North Carolina. Rajon Tucker, Royce O'Neal, uh, Georges Niang, Juwan Morgan. I don't recognize these names, but outside of their bench, uh, their starters are pretty lethal. You have, like I said, Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. And then you have supporting members like Joe Ingles, a great 3 and D player who's uh, just just crazy efficient.
He's like an
For
old
someone.
man, but for some reason he's quick. I don't know. It's
Yeah,
weird.
he's like Larry. Okay, this may be a stretch, and maybe because he's like not African American, but he kind of reminds me of like a Larry Bird, like a poor man's Larry Bird, but with less
I would
style.
say I would say Manu Ginobili.
Okay, I think that's a better player
Yeah.
comp. Um, then they have Ed Davis, pretty decent big man. And then, from the offseason, they were able to pick up Mike Conley, a great veteran point guard from Memphis, a great facilitator of the ball, great defender. So, and a lot of playoff experience. And they have like Jordan Clarkson, a young player from the Lakers, who's I feel like he has a chip on his shoulder, and he has still somewhat a lot to prove to the league
Right.
that he could have made something of himself in the city of LA. So as it stands right now, they don't really have that many injury reports outside of,
Yeah.
I think, Emmanuel Mudiay.
You forgot one person. Probably one of the bigger people on that team. Bojan Bogdanovic.
Oh, yeah, the other European assassin.
That guy,
Um,
he gets buckets too.
yeah, he's just. I always thought he was related to Bogdanovich, but
Right, everybody
uh,
did. That's why we were trying to get him to sign with us because we were like, "Oh, he's your brother. You come play with your brother." And everyone was like, "Well, he's not his actual brother." We said, "Dang it!"
yeah, a great player coming from Indiana, another 3 and D kind of sharpshooter, wicked efficient. So a great addition to the team. So looking at their schedule, they play the Pelicans, the Thunder, Los Angeles, Memphis, San Antonio, Denver, Dallas, and San Antonio again. This one kind of looks tough because, like I said, like I don't see their bench as deep as other teams in this bubble,
Mhm.
and I don't think their star players have enough firepower to get them over that hump to playoff success. So I think they're as good as maybe 4 wins, maybe 3. Uh, so I could see them sweeping San Antonio, but it's just a tough conference altogether.
Right,
So unless you're Los Angeles, Lakers and Clippers, and maybe Denver, it's
right,
gonna be it's gonna be a tough ride for everyone below them,
yeah,
including the Jazz. Despite having a great team, you have one of the great passers in Mike Conley, one of the greatest defenders in the league in Rudy Gobert, and just an explosive young talent in Donovan Mitchell who can practically do it all.
right,
Um, Despite those compliments, I don't see them meshing together and making it through this season, you know, as great as they want to be.
right. I could definitely see that. I mean, and I saw something that there was reports that I guess Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert were kind of not getting along at the time. So we'll see if that plays into, this bubble and how they do. And during the season, Mike Conley was really struggling to where he got benched because he was a starter, then they benched him. So we'll see how that plays out too. And just like you said, there's going to be some tough games on this schedule. I mean, you got the Nuggets, the Mavericks, the Thunder, and the Lakers. Those are already going to be tough games.
Yeah,
And then the Pelicans. I mean, we don't know about the Pelicans. I mean, they have Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson, but we're gonna get into them a little bit later. The next we have the Oklahoma City Thunder, and it seems like ever since the Thunder were a team, they've always been good. They've always been solid. Even when you were like, these guys are not going to have a good season, they ended up having a good season with the fourth, fifth seed, and it's just crazy. So they have Chris Paul, arguably one of the greatest point guards of all time, top five, top three, whoever you ask. Um, Shai Gilgis Alexander, very good point guard, shooting guard, combo guard. You know, traded from, I believe he came from the Clippers in a trade, and he's been very good for them, as well as Danilo Gallinari, spot up shooter. This guy's plays some pretty good defense, can get to the rim, pretty quick first step. And then you got Aquaman himself, Steven Adams, cleans up the boards, gets rebounds, plays defense, blocks shots, and has an all right mid range jumper, and just great on ball screens. Pick and roll game is very good, and even you still have their sixth man. I believe he comes off the bench, Dennis Schroeder. Very good.
oh yeah,
Good defense, quick. Puts up. I think he averages like 20 points a game or something like that. And then I think that I'm not sure if he was still injured, but they get Andre Robertson back. Very good defensive player.
not a great shooter.
No, terrible, terrible shooter, but great defensive player. Kind of like how Thabo Sefolosha was when he played for the Thunder.
Yep.
But their schedule, it looks like it's going to be a little difficult to side two games. You got the Jazz, the Nuggets, the Lakers, the Grizzlies, the Wizards, the Suns, the Heat, and the Clippers. So we'll see what Chris Paul and Billy Donovan, end up doing for that schedule.
Yeah. Like you said, Oklahoma City, they've always been a team that produces great, not or good, but not great results, i.e., not winning a championship. They were so close when they had KD and Westbrook, but since their own big three departed separately, they still managed to find a way to win and produce the results that get them into the playoffs. But they never figured out how to beat the top seed. I think they're still finding themselves, especially with Chris Paul having to lead the team. He's too old to be a leader. I see him maybe contributing maybe 2 more seasons at most before he hangs it up. But I don't know what his contract is, but if he's set to be a free agent, I think he might go ring chasing with another team. And I just don't see this season being the season for the Thunder. But they do have a great roster. Like you said, which I feel like Shea Gilgeous Alexander, I think he's going to be the future of that franchise if they keep him. And if they build around him, and hopefully if they keep Steven Adams for that window, because it is closing, I think they could do some great things in free agency and in the future. But I could see them maybe winning 4 games, 4 games, kind of like the Houston or Utah Jazz.
Yeah, and speaking of Chris Paul, that actually brings us to our next team.
Yeah, so Chris Paul's former team, the Houston Rockets, led by the dynamic duo of Russell Westbrook and James Harden. These triple-double machines, scoring machines, just freak of nature athletes who never won a title. I feel like that's their label, especially for James Harden. He has always choked in the playoffs. He's always fallen under the pressure when it matters the most. The question is he going to do it again in the playoffs? Like, I feel like they're going to be a mid seed based on what is going to happen in the season. But looking at their roster, they have a pretty good roster. Outside of those two, they got DeMarre Carroll, Tyson Chandler, still a great board getter. Robert Covington, a great 3-and-D player still. Eric Gordon, former 6th Player of the Year, just a great 3-point shooter. Jeff Green, another great shooter. Daniel House, kind of one of those underrated bench players. Luke Mbah-a-Moute, a great role player. You put him in a spot to defend or get you like 6 to 10 points a night, he'll do it for you. Ben McLemore, I feel like because he's in a new environment outside of Sacramento, he can produce something, but I don't see that fire in him. Austin Rivers, someone I do see fire in, but he's just, I don't know. I just always see him as Doc Rivers' little baby boy.
I heard he opted out.
Oh, okay. I don't think that makes a difference. I think he's only good for just like hyping up people in a fight.
Oh, okay.
And then taunting his dad to get thrown out of the game. And then PJ Tucker, they're kind of heart and soul of the team as like their own little Draymond Green, small guy that can defend any position and shoot a 3 here and there. So pretty talented squad, but it's just not enough. I don't see them beating anyone like the Lakers, like the Clippers, like the Nuggets, or even the Jazz. I'm assuming that James Harden hasn't learned from his past mistakes. I don't think he'll be that type of leader that just wants to win championships
Uh,
rather than kind of like Russell Westbrook, who just wants to be great individually. Like he'll go down in history as one of those great individual players, but
right.
it won't be attached to a team that won championships throughout his career. So, and it's sad because you see the hard work and where he's come from, being in that big three with KD and Westbrook. So you expect for someone as special as James Harden to at least win a chip. And that could be the case in the future, but I think you just need to surround him with just better players and just more star power and more pieces that he can utilize to his best ability and lead properly. So, looking at their schedule, Dallas, I could see a W there. Milwaukee, definitely not. Portland, that can be a nail biter. Lakers, no. Sacramento, for some reason, Houston always kicks our butts.
Yeah.
It's like I could see us getting a whooping from Rockets. San Antonio, they're pretty familiar with San Antonio being in the same division, so I could see them winning. Indiana, possibly, and then Philadelphia, not so much. So I can see them splitting their schedule, going like 500, maybe 4 wins, 5 wins. But when it comes to the playoffs, it's just I don't see anything going their way
Right.
this season.
Well, with Mike D'Antoni, it's threes, shoot threes, and
No
I don't. They
defense.
don't. Yeah, they don't play defense. Usually, you hear three and D. Well, they just do three. They don't do the D. So,
Yeah.
we'll see how that fares for them. In the schedule and in the playoffs. But yeah,
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
I forgot to report too that injury wise, Russell Westbrook, outside of Austin Rivers opting out, Russell Westbrook, he has been tested positive for COVID recently, and he's taken the precautionary measures to get quarantined. But he is set to return to the team um, before the reseeding tournament begins. So they should be fine with
okay,
him.
that's good. That's good. But yeah, speaking on James Harden, I mean, if you think about it, how close they were. There were a lot of people would say a torn hamstring to Chris Paul away from going to the
Yeah.
finals. And if I'm being honest, I still don't think they would have won the championship. I think LeBron would have probably won that championship, but
Hmm.
that's just me. And that will bring us to the next team, the Dallas Mavericks. And we all know who they have, Luka Doncic.
Should have picked him up. Yeah, he was in our clutch.
Luka Doncic, I believe he won Rookie of the Year last year. Pretty sure landslide, right? I think so. Just he's almost at the point where he's a walking triple double. I mean, this guy,
But for the
he's
right reason.
good. Yeah, like he's not an individual triple double guy. He gets triple doubles by like helping the team. Like usually, like say when Westbrook wants a triple double, he'll just throw the ball, hope you make it, and that's an assist for me. Like Luka, he creates the play and he finishes the play. I mean, the
Yeah,
only
it's
thing
just
I don't like
natural.
about him, he complains a little bit when he gets fouled. I saw that a lot, and it's super annoying. But you know, usually he makes that too, even when he gets fouled. So he's going to the line a lot. He hits that step back three all the time, and he has some ridiculous handles as well. And that's just Luka. Now we have Kristaps Porzingis,
The
what
unicorn.
do they call him? Yeah, the unicorn. What is he, like almost 7 foot, or is he 7 foot, something like that?
Yeah, just around
Yeah,
7 foot.
can hit a three, drive on you, freaking dunk all over you, rebounds all day. I mean, I don't know. I think he's pretty good at defense. He's more just lengthy, so it's going to be really hard to shoot over him and all that. And then you have what's funny is there's a Curry that's going to be playing, but it's not Steph Curry. What, in the past 4 years, 4 or 5 years, hasn't Curry gone to like every playoff or anything? Going
Yeah,
into that,
a
it's not the
Curry, a
playoffs
Curry is
yet,
going to be
but
playing in the playoffs.
a Curry
He's going
will
to
be
represent the
playing.
name. Yeah.
Seth Curry, not Steph Curry, Seth Curry. He's going to be doing it. He's on the team, and this guy, he brings energy on defense, and he can knock down a three. He could silence a crowd, and he could get a crowd going. That's kind of, he's almost like his brother. And then you have, and I think they got him from the Knicks too, Tim Hardaway Jr. I was at a
Oh,
game,
yeah.
and this dude hit 5 threes like in a row. I think he hit like 6 or 7 by the end of the game.
Yeah,
But
he's a
this
he's a
guy,
great fantasy player. Someone to have on your fantasy team. He just gets you like a lot of points.
right? And he's really good at shooting threes, but he could also play defense. And then you have Justin Jackson, who they got from the Kings, hasn't quite lived up to what he was
He's
when
just
he was drafted yet, but I mean he has time. And
he's.
to be
I
playing
think
under
everyone
Luca,
assumes he's just soft.
right? His little, I'll never, I never forget when they played the Warriors, and he comes down and hits a three, and then Steph Curry jab steps him, and he breaks his
Drops
ankles.
them.
Oh man, he humbled him quick. That was so funny. But they have a good team. They also picked up Willie Cauley Stein, former King, from the Warriors. If you want to throw an alley oop and give him the ball and have him, miss a layup or miss an assignment on defense, then yeah, that's the guy for you. But Rick Carlisle, good coach for them. It looks like they have a few easy games on their schedule, but they play the Rockets, the Suns, the Kings, but I honestly wouldn't say the Kings is going to be an easy game for them because I'm pretty sure the Kings have won more times than not against Luka Doncic's Mavericks.
Yeah,
Even when
it's
even when they were the underdog, they still won. I think the Kings just have the Mavericks numbers. They play the Clippers, the Bucks. That's going to be a tough game for them. Giannis, the Jazz, the Blazers is going to be a tough game. C.J. McCollum, Damian Lillard can never count out Dame Dollar. And then you got the Suns, DeAndre Ayton, Devin Booker. So, I could see them winning. I could probably see them sweeping the Suns, beating the Blazers. I could probably see them winning about 4 or 5 games out of it.
yeah. Great squad, like you mentioned. Uh, Luka Doncic already considered MVP caliber kind of player. Um, so it's not impossible for them to. I see them as one of those sleeper teams that makes it to maybe the Western Conference Finals. Um, so one of those sleeper teams, like what they did their last playoff run or their last championship run. For some reason, I kind of see them like the New York Giants of the NBA. Just people, a team that people sleep on, but they just show up when it means the most. And so, especially with someone like Luka, I feel like at a young age he can still. I think he's prepared to lead a team to a championship, especially with someone like Kristaps. He's like a second tier great player. He's not what he used to be after that injury he had in New York.
Right.
So I think maybe in the offseason, if they're able to get a great free agent like LeBron has with Anthony Davis, I think Luka can make some real noise in the NBA and compete for a chip. So, any final words about Dallas? Yeah. So moving on, we have the Memphis Grizzlies, who are set as the eighth
Eighth
seed
seed, yep.
in the West. So that's what teams are fighting for right now, or most of the teams in the bottom half of each conference are fighting for is that eighth spot. And in the West, it's like pretty close. It's before the NBA shut down, there was like a 5-6 game difference between Memphis, Portland, New Orleans, Sacramento, San Antonio, and Phoenix. So it was very tight. So, thank goodness we have this seeding tournament to figure out, which teams are going to make it as the eighth seed. And Memphis, they've always been, kind of straddling in the middle of the conference as an eighth seed kind of team. They have pretty decent roster, and they just have a great star player in Ja Morant. A great duo of young players in Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. So I think they have their future set because they have the rebounding and defense. They have the passing and just that ruthless aggression with Ja Morant. He's kind of like that second coming of Allen Iverson. Just nasty handles and powerful dunks. They do have Justice Winslow, but he is having a hip injury, and I think his season has ended. So that kind of takes a blow. He's a pretty good, efficient player. They have Jonas Valanciunas from Toronto. I think they got him in the free agency. So good pickup as he's a pretty good defender and rebounder. And I think their strength lies within their guard spots because they have players like Dylan Brooks and Tyus Jones, just no-namers who
Dylan
put a
Brooks,
whooping on my favorite team. I don't know who these guys are, but why do you have to pick on my team? So they have a pretty decent squad, not great outside of their two best players. And I think that's just where they're going to stay at is just mediocre.
Yeah.
But I feel like in this final 8 games, since they cut out the 2 worst teams in every conference, it makes the competition that much harder. And what's at stake, is that much graver. So I could see them putting up a fight in a lot of games. Looking at their schedule, they play against Portland.
It's a tough schedule.
Yeah, San Antonio, New Orleans, Utah, Oklahoma, Toronto, the former champions, Boston, and Milwaukee. So the last 3 games, I don't see them winning at all.
I see maybe 2 wins in that schedule, which is good for, us. Because they're the 8th seed and they have this schedule. That's a tough schedule.
So I just don't see them squeaking into the playoffs and holding on to that 8th spot. So it's a shame. But it's going to be a good learning experience for both Jaren Jackson and Ja Morant as they move forward in the future as the 2 franchise players for the Grizzlies.
Right. And moving on to a team that probably will or might snag that 8th spot is the Portland Trailblazers.
Yep.
Coached by a very good coach, Terry Stotts. Last season they got to the did they get to the Western Conference Finals, I believe? I think.
Against.
I think that's where the Warriors. It was either the Western Conference or right before.
Yeah.
I'll have to look at it. But, always in the playoffs each season. Can't sleep on Damian Lillard ever. I mean, this guy pulls up from the logo and just hits it. I mean, I'm sure Paul George knows about that. When he hits that on him, the bye-bye, man. And do they play we'll get to that in a second, but they have CJ McCollum, great shooting guard. He can get, a bucket at any time that he needs to, and he plays great defense. Rodney Hood really reinvented himself with the Blazers because, when he was with the Cavaliers, he was kind of like you saw spurts of greatness, but he kind of didn't really put it all together, and it seems like he has now with the Blazers. And then you have Carmelo Anthony.
Skinny Mellow.
Skinny Mellow. He's skinny now? I had no idea. But
or he shed some weight.
Yeah.
So
So, I mean, you're not going to get defense from Melo, but you will get buckets. He'll get you some buckets. And they have Zach Collins. You know, he's a good mid-range shooter, and he could grab some rebounds. Oh, they traded, I believe, for Hassan Whiteside.
yeah.
So he plays good defense, blocks a lot of shots. Kind of a crybaby, but grabs boards, gets a lot of putbacks, and then you have Yusuf Nurkic. I'm not sure if he's still injured. He was in the season, but I mean, time has passed. But
Yeah, he should be healthy.
if you have him, he's a force. He is very good. But that brings me to the schedule, and why I'm gonna say this. Got the Grizzlies, the Celtics, and here we go. This is where the NBA sees this game. They should be like, we need to get Damian Lillard and Russell Westbrook mic'd up for that game. Just those two, the whole game when they play each other. I just want to hear them go at it because they have a rivalry. Yeah, definitely. And then you have the Nuggets, the Clippers, the 76ers, the Mavericks, and the Nets. Oof, that's a tough schedule.
Yeah, Portland is just one of those gritty teams that just dogs it out, and for most of the part, they win their games. Um, so, with someone with the experience and battle readiness like CJ and Dame leading their troops into battle, I could see them winning 6 of their games and securing a good spot in the playoffs. So, um, again, I think one of those sleeper teams that you just can't count out to make it to the championship series. It's mostly unlikely, but it's out of all the teams in the West, Portland stands a threat to every team, and that's hard to do, especially
Right.
against the Lakers. So, like they have a good formula. They're kind of like Denver, so a very lethal squad altogether. Which now moving on to the next team, um, just a weird team to be in this bubble, but because they have the next generational talent, uh,
So they
they're
say.
being, yeah, they're floating above water for now. So it's the New Orleans Pelicans, and their schedule, they're going up against Utah, the Clippers, Memphis, Sacramento, Washington, San Antonio, Sacramento again. I could see them splitting with us 1-1, and then Orlando. It's a fairly easy schedule for them, especially for someone that for a team that has their roster. So they have obviously their supposed franchise player and next messiah of the NBA, Zion Williamson. I don't see the hype. I don't understand it. He's gonna get injured one of these games doing
He reminds
crazy
me of
things.
Blake Griffin. I
Yeah,
mean,
I can see
everyone
that.
compares him to LeBron and all this. It's like, no. I mean, here's what I see him do. I see him get a rebound and I see him dunk. I see him occasionally shoot the ugliest three-pointer I've ever seen, and it'll go in. But other than that, like where's I just see so much hype within him, and it's just like it shouldn't be hyped really at all. I
He's
saw
just
this thing where it said Colin Coward, he's doing his NBA superlatives. So, his NBA awards, right? And Joy goes, Rookie of the Year. And he says Zion Williamson. And I like about lost it, threw my phone across the room. Like, are you dumb? Are you seriously stupid? Like, why would you pick Zion, who played what, 15, 20 games over Ja? Like, Ja Morant was freaking ridiculous until I think he got injured. But
I think it's just the narrative, you
yeah,
know. Zion comes from a prestigious school in Duke, with Coach K. I think, did he win a championship with Duke? No.
no, he didn't.
Yeah. Um, but and then from high school, he just goes up against these tiny little kids and just dunks all over them. His, I think it's just the highlight tapes. They scream out freak athlete and game changer, but
Right.
and even he could like I'm not dogging like bagging on him. He can hold his own against the NBA elite right now. He can
Right.
score on it. He can drive on anybody and all that stuff, but what does he offer to the team as a whole? You know, like he's a great athlete, but can you rely on him to make that, jumper 3-pointer with 2 seconds left?
Right.
No.
It's almost
Like I don't
like
see.
they think they honestly think he's the next LeBron James, and it baffles me. Like they think Zion Williamson is going to take the Pelicans to the freaking promised land with the
I
way
think
that
it's
they're
just.
constructed, and they have a good
I
team
think.
right now.
I think it's because of marketability. You can sell Zion because he screams box office. Unlike John Morant, Jaw screams box office, but not as loud as Zion.
Right.
So, and as soon as Zion is able to go into free agency and signs with a team maybe like the Knicks or LA, that's when his name is really going to, blast and take off.
Right.
Um, so, and his surrounding cast, he has Lonzo Ball, who has improved over the past couple years, being in a new city.
Hmm.
Derek Favors, a proven power forward. Josh Hart, a very underrated guard. Jackson Hayes, a pretty decent forward. Drew Holiday, one of the top 5, 6 point guards in the league.
Right.
Brandon Ingram, just a great scorer altogether, you know, but nothing else. Um, and then you have veteran players like JJ Redick and JJ Redick. And then their bench, I don't recognize any names. Um, and they don't have that many. I don't think they have any like major injuries to report.
Right.
So I can see them winning 5 games, maybe 6, um, depending on how well. Because they can score a lot. Like they have a lot of offensive power. I feel like they allow a lot of points too. I don't see them having a lot of great defensive players outside of Zion Williamson. So
Right.
um, so looking at their schedule, they've been granted a pretty lenient schedule. So I'll give them 5 wins for now, and maybe sneaking into the playoffs as the 8th seed. But
Man, wouldn't the NBA just love that? Zion Williamson to go to the playoffs. And a lot of people think that's why they brought the bubble back because they want Zion in the playoffs because it sells more.
maybe
I don't know. Honestly, I don't see the hype with him. I think he's just going to be another Blake Griffin. On top of that, he's on the Pelicans. So, I mean, how are you going to hype up the Pelicans? Like, and sorry, Pelican fans, but Zion's not going to be there long term. He's going to leave as soon as he gets the chance. But that brings us to another team. Our next team, the one right on my hat here, Sacramento
Cowbell Kingdom.
Kings. So
Woo!
here's the thing. I'm just gonna get it out of the way now. Marvin Bagley out for the season. I'm not gonna harp on the negatives. Hopefully he gets healthy and he's good to go. He's gonna have plenty of time for the next season, and hopefully we can get the Marvin Bagley that we drafted #2 overall because when he plays, he did very well for us. He played good defense. He was good pick and roll. And I think he can get better, in the off season, and hopefully get a better trainer, nutritionist. I don't know what the heck this guy needs to do. You know, don't get hurt again.
Great compliment to the team. But why do you have to get injured? Why?
We'll see. He's very young still, so I wouldn't give up on him just yet. I would let him.
Right
You
now,
know,
this like I don't even think basketball's on his mind. I think his next album's on his mind right
the roster still looks good without Bagley, mostly because we didn't have Bagley for most of the season. When he was injured for a good amount of the season, we had him a few games, and then
now.
he
Yep.
gets hurt again or something. So I mean, we're without him most of the season. So right now, it shouldn't even matter.
And who is his
De'Aaron
replacement?
Fox. We'll get to that.
Oh,
De'Aaron Fox. Thing came out. He's actually going to play in this next game. So
yep.
he's healthy. He said he can get up and down the court. And, Walton said that he had no no worries about his injury at all, and rightfully so. He's going to get back out there. I think he's elite now, or he is very, very close to nearing elite status point guard.
The question is, when it comes to De'Aaron Fox, is should he be your franchise player? Should you build around him?
I'm giving
I
him
don't
the max.
think so.
I
would give him the max too, but he is better complementing a star.
Right. And then you have Buddy Hield. He's coming off the bench now, but when he came off the bench, he was doing really good. And he looked good in that first scrimmage. Had 19 points, knocked down threes. And I think, honestly, Buddy Hield just in a gym, no crowd or anything like that, I think that's good for him because he lives in the gym just shooting. He even said this is a shooter's gym, and I love it. So I think that's going to, fare well for him and for us. And then you have Bogdan Bogdanovic. Sometimes he could be inconsistent. And that's the only thing that sucks is that he could be inconsistent. But when he's on, he is on fire. Great distributor of the ball, can knock down a three, plays some pretty good defense. He has some underrated defense.
And I think he's set to be a free agent after this season. So the Kings have a lot of decisions to make when it comes to him. Are you going to give him a great extension, or are you going to let him walk? I think we keep him at all.
Yeah, all signs are pointing to us keeping him and Fox, which is really good. I think they're two key pieces we can't let go. And then we signed him last in the offseason, Richaun Holmes from the Suns. This guy.
He's been the heart and soul of our team.
Yeah, this dude is – I am very happy that he is healthy and he's ready to go, aside from him going to get chicken wings and breaking quarantine. But he'll be ready.
He just had to get food outside. His mom was mad at him too. Like, you could have just asked me to bring you some food.
Right. And, he'll be ready when the season actually starts up again. I don't know if he's playing in any scrimmages, but as long as he's ready by the time we have the first, game in the seeding.
Yeah.
We have Corey Joseph, a good number 2 point guard, holds his own. I like him a lot better than Yogi Ferrell coming off the bench as our second point guard. And guy we got from a trade, Kent Bazemore. He's almost like Richaun Holmes. Like, he brings life to our team. This guy is a dog on defense, can knock down a three, distributes the ball really well, and gets to the rim.
Yeah, what I like about Kent Bazemore is, unlike a lot of other people who had to dread the news of coming to Sacramento, he wants to fight for us. He has
wants
that
to stay
spirit.
in Sacramento.
Yeah, he wants to compete for us, and that's so delightful to hear as coming from a fan of a city who doesn't get enough attention because they're in the same state as Golden State Warriors, both teams from LA, and it's impossible. It's impossible to get free agents. So to have Kent Bazemore, even though he's not a sought after commodity, it gives me good hope that there are still great players that want to play for us.
He's a great piece too to our team.
Yeah,
he fits our team like a glove. Like, it's perfect. And yeah, you're right. It's almost, we are the stepchild of California. Like, no one likes us.
What did we do? We're
exactly. But we get Harrison Barnes back. He's cleared. So now I guess right now today he's actually on a plane out to Orlando. So he's going to be good to go.
Fingers crossed that he eventually shaves his beard.
Right, and we get into the playoffs. We get that 8th seed. And also we get Jabari Parker. He was looking pretty good in that scrimmage. I'm not going to lie. He looked healthy. He was knocking down threes. Yeah. And he was holding his own. He knocked down some threes. I saw him cross somebody up and hit a jumper at his face. Like, we might have got something there in Jabari Parker. And then we also have our other Energizer bunny coming off the bench in Harry Giles. Probably a top 5 center as far as distributing the ball. This guy,
great passer.
Yeah, his pass IQ is great.
But his fouling IQ, very low.
Yeah, it's bad. He just needs to stop fouling and just, put his hands up. Like, it's crazy. But he can knock down a mid-range jumper, and he's almost a good heart and soul piece of our team too. Um, will he remain on the team? I hope that he does, just because I like Harry Giles. He's another one of those people who wants to, stay with us. But, looking at this roster, we have a pretty, if you look at it, it looks pretty good. And judging how we were doing before this whole season came to a halt, I have a good feeling about it. And also with our schedule, aside from a few games, it's favorable, like really favorable. We have the Spurs, the Magic, the Mavericks, the Pelicans twice, the Nets, the Rockets, and the Lakers. So the games where I look at and I say, I don't think we'll win those games. Obviously, the Rockets, we get destroyed. I don't like we can't guard James Harden or something. Except that one game where Bielitsa hit that game winner. I watched that game.
Yeah.
That was nasty. Maybe we get that again, but we'll see. And the Lakers. Honestly, I want to beat the Lakers. And if LeBron and Anthony Davis don't play, I think we will beat the Lakers. And it's
That's
the
what I
very
was
last game too.
Yeah.
So what it comes down to me, if we sweep the Pelicans, I think we have a very good shot of making it to the 8th seed. Because we could beat the Spurs. We've beaten the Magic. We've beaten the Mavericks before. I think we could beat the Nets if Kyrie and KD don't play. I'm not sure if they're playing or not.
Yeah, they have I think their roster, when we talk about it next time, it looks completely different from what, people thought they were going to be in the beginning of the season. So,
Yeah.
good chance
So
for us.
so I mean, if you really look at it, if the season had continued, we had what 20, 30 games left, something like that. Had a lot more
Yeah.
games to play, and for the Kings to make it to the 8th seed, that would have been difficult. But now you're giving them this schedule, and you're like, all right, you get 8 games. The Kings, I could see us winning 5, 6 games on this.
Same.
So
6,
I could
7 games,
definitely
possibly.
exactly. I could see
But
them, and the way that they looked competitive without their starters in that scrimmage against the Heat. Granted, they didn't have Jimmy Butler or Bam, but they looked good.
I think the key factor in what's going to make or break the Kings' final games is Luke Walton and how he manages his players throughout the games.
Right,
When they're down by 10 or up by 12 or 20, how are you going to position players? How are you going to substitute? So that's really going to mean a lot
right.
uh, for the Kings. So Luke needs to strategize perfectly if he wants to get his team to the playoffs, who haven't seen the playoffs in nearly 2 decades.
For real, like man, we're going through it. But we couldn't be in a better situation right now because if you look at the Grizzlies, the Blazers, the Pelicans, they have harder schedules than us. It seems,
Yeah.
especially with the Grizzlies, they're in the 8th spot, and their schedule looks brutal. They play 6 out of the 8 all playoff teams, so
Yeah.
it's going to be hard for them. So I could see them winning 5, 6 games, or even 7. And I'm hoping that I don't jinx them because I want us to go to the playoffs. Because we were close last year. We were real
Plus,
close.
yeah.
And I think this year might be the year to go to that 8th seed and probably get swept by the Lakers. But it's okay because we made the playoffs.
We broke the curse.
Or maybe we spoil LeBron's, championship run. How great would that be? It would
Get
not
them
be
back.
great. Yeah, it'd be
Get
good
them
because
back.
I'm a Kings fan, but it would also be bad because I really like LeBron. So, but I'd rather the Kings win. So,
Yeah. So high hopes for our mighty Kings. So moving on to the final 2 teams. I don't know how much you want to discuss about them, but I don't really see them as factors in I feel like they just got brought along just for the experience. I don't know. Maybe I'm just talking a lot of trash, but San Antonio and Phoenix, the Spurs and the Suns. Starting with the Spurs, they're led by DeMar DeRozan, and it used to be LaMarcus Aldridge, but he's out for the season.
oh,
So
was
he's
he?
really,
Wow.
yeah, he has a shoulder surgery. Um,
Okay.
so you have a lot of pieces like Patty Mills and DeJounte Murray, Lonnie Walker. Uh, they're pretty good right now, but Trey Lyles, Marco Bellinelli, Tyler Zeller, Derek White. It's just a lot of like it's not the kind of pieces that you'd expect on a Spurs team led by um, uh, blanking on his name.
Is it Greg Popovich?
Yeah, Greg Popovich.
Or is it another coach? I'm not sure if he went to the bubble.
Oh, I don't
We'll
know.
say it's Greg Popovich.
Yeah, it is Greg Popovich's team. It does not look like the Spurs of old with Duncan, Ginobili, and Parker. So it's a rebuilding time for them. So I'm just gonna say I don't even need to look at their schedule. 2 wins at the most. 2.
Dang, that's disrespectful. Here we go. I'll say it. Kings, Grizzlies, 76ers, Nuggets, Jazz, Pelicans, Rockets, and Jazz. And in closing, 2 wins.
2 wins.
And that brings us to our last team, the Suns, coached by Monty Williams. They have DeAndre Ayton. I believe he was the number 1 pick. Devin Booker, walking bucket, plays defense. It's a shame that he's in that situation. He shouldn't have took that max. He should have gone to another team. Kelly Oubre, who gives the Kings fits. Luckily, we don't play the Suns, so we don't have to deal with them.
Yeah.
But very good at defense and even offense, can knock down a 3. He's also an energizer bunny for them. Aaron Baines, just a big dude who gets rebounds, can hit the occasional 3. Rubio, I believe Ricky Rubio? Is that his name? Ricky Rubio? Yeah. Great distributor, terrible 3-point shooter, not that great of a free throw shooter. All right at defense, not too great, but good solid piece for them. And then they had Dario Saric. He's a good defender, mostly known for his 3-point shooting ability, and he can grab some rebounds. So that being said, their schedule, they got the Wizards, the Mavericks, the Clippers, the Pacers, the Heat, the Thunder, the 76ers, and the Mavericks again. So that's a difficult schedule. I could see maybe, 1 win for them. What do you think?
Maybe 3. Devin Booker, he's just a dog, So, and they sneak up on some teams sometimes. They get trashed by, one night, and then they trash another team, usually us, another. So thankfully we don't have to see them.
We don't play it.
Yeah, but I'll give them 3 games, 4.
You give them more than the Spurs? That's generous.
Yeah.
It'd be great if they could sweep the Mavericks for us. That would be great.
Yeah, that would help us a lot.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, looking at all the teams in the West, it looks like we know obviously who the top seeds are going to be, and maybe they don't exactly play all their starters, but it's really going to be for that 8th spot. That's going to be, a race for sure.
Yeah.
I think both of us want the Kings obviously in that 8th spot, but I could also see, if anything, I could see the Blazers squeaking into that 8th spot, because I honestly,
deservedly so too.
Yeah, we both. I think, Zion Williamson is a little overhyped, and the Pelicans themselves. The Grizzlies, schedule is extremely hard for them, especially even though they have Ja, who's only a rookie. They have Jaren Jackson Jr. as his 2nd year. So they're a young team with, I believe he's like a 1st or 2nd year coach. So we'll see how that plays out. But I think both of us really want the Kings to be in that 8th spot. Thank you guys for watching this episode. Next episode, we'll be going over the East Conference for the Orlando bubble. We're going to be going over each team and their schedule. If you like this video, please hit like. And if you enjoy our videos, please subscribe. It would really help us out a lot. So thank you guys for watching, and we hope you have a good day.